Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today, we are going to talk about how trauma, specifically childhood trauma, affects your relationships with others, how you see relationships. So this is the third video in my series. So you, if you haven't watched the first two is just talking about the ways childhood trauma can affect you in 3 ways. Not going into, there's so many ways that childhood trauma can affect you and affect and how you cope with the world, all of it, right? Wanted to stay with, just for this series purposes, how trauma affects you, which was the first video, how you see you, okay? And so this video is about how you see others, okay? And so in my first video, I talked about how when you experience childhood trauma, it can put you in spaces, right, for survival. And so if you think about that, if you're in survival, you're meeting new people, you're like, who are you and what's your agenda? And that's typically how you engage with other people, because new people bring on more pain, is what the script and belief that can be attached to trauma, especially trauma that's been reinforced. Like if you have someone who is who maybe had a parent who and every new person that they brought into their life and invited into their home was abusive. Okay, so that reinforces like, oh, or it was chaotic. There was abuse in the home, and it was just like, oh, I have to deal with this and go to school and do this. People, it's just, people, no. Okay, so you think it makes people, your view of people as potentially dangerous and harmful, and then you are hesitant to attach to people because you feel, and your experience has been, when you attach yourself to people or their situations where you weren't able to detach from people, bad things happen, right? And so that truly is like at the core of how you see others. You're seeing others, you're always in a position where you kind of got like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I call it in my sessions, you got your to-go shoes on. You're like ready at any moment. If there's any red flags, and you don't really need a red flag to go, right? There's sometimes you just need like the hint of a red flag, and you're like, phew, I'm out. I'm not attaching myself to this person. I'm not sticking around because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, and it could potentially be a dangerous situation. So the way you survive. And if you think about it, also, because as a child, when you're experiencing trauma, this is something we also talked about in the first video, that you are in a mode of survival, right? And so in that way of survival, especially if you are feeling like your siblings are in danger or your parent is in danger, you are taking on the responsibility to protect them, right? As anyone who has love and doesn't know really how to, navigate that, and as a child, you're like, I need to protect them. I need to look out for them. Okay. And so that is also how you engage in your relationships, where you feel like you need to protect and to constantly be hyper vigilant about the people that you do bring into your life, that you do choose to attach to. And oftentimes that could lead you to be in a caretaker mode, where you're in your relationships and you're taking care of people because that is how you learn to navigate and be safe. Okay, in that period of your time and that period of your life, right, which worked for you, but as you continue to grow, you realize taking care of people is not necessarily something to continue to do. Of course, if you are a caretaker, if you have to, if you have someone who a family member has dementia or is incapacitated, right? But if you have a full abled person in your life, okay, and you need to hold them accountable, or you're not getting what you need from them, but you're still taking care of them, you're caretaking, then you're not getting your needs met. And oftentimes that is also an indirect messaging that you receive as a child who's experienced trauma, that you become accustomed to not getting your needs met from others, so you don't require them to, or request them to meet your needs, because oftentimes you don't even trust that they will meet your needs. So then if you request it and the need's not met, you're protecting yourself from further disappointment and further pain, okay? And so oftentimes this causes boundary crossing in relationships. You allow people to do things in your life or to you in your life that you are not okay with, okay? But you do that because you have had your boundaries crossed pretty much all your life. And so it's something you come accustomed to. It's something that you don't know what's too much, what's not enough, when to hold someone accountable, when to hold yourself accountable. So it often can lead to this kind of triangle behavior, which is definitely an upcoming video, where there's like this victim, perpetrator, and rescuer kind of concept, where oftentimes you're either protecting someone or you're playing the victim in a situation where you're because you are being held accountable, it doesn't feel good, you're just like, well, I'm this way because of this, and it can lead to spaces where people have a hard time receiving criticism and correction because of the trauma that they've experienced in their lives and lack of accountability that they've had to endure, or maybe because they just had to do so much for other people and to protect people that that taking on accountability can often be offensive because of what you have received, what you've done for this person, all the protection that you've given this person, all the overworking and the responsibility, the caretaking that you're doing for the person. It can be offensive when they want to hold you accountable or even have something to say about your caretaking. And so it can oftentimes lead to a lot of dissatisfaction in relationships because you're not getting your needs met. You're like, I have this person, I love them, they love me. It doesn't have to be always romantic. It could even be a mother-child, a parent-child relationship. It could be a friendship. Oftentimes, there's a lot of discomfort in communicating your needs, in not discussing your feelings, because you're really remember from the first video, if you haven't watched that, when experiencing childhood trauma, you often numb your feelings. Okay, so that means you're not aware of how you're feeling or how you're being treated is making you feel, which means you endure pain unnecessarily because it's just something that you have grown accustomed to do. We just grin and bear it. We just fight through it. We just get through it. And oftentimes there is some wiggle room, right? Life does bring some blows to us. Can we say that? The pandemic, we definitely had to grin and bear it through the pandemic. Okay, and at the same time, we also need to attend to, right, how the pandemic affected us, how it made us feel, okay? And how it affected our relationships, because it definitely shaped a lot of relationships, okay? So we need to, there's a balance to it, okay? And so childhood trauma, that type of pain, though, needs to be witnessed. And not to say that the pandemic pain doesn't need to be witnessed. It does. It definitely does. And so just using the pandemic as a way of how we have all had to kind of like push through it, because either we were like working through it or we were trying to figure out how we were going to make it through it. And it was something that we had to navigate around. And so you as a child, you're navigating around and you're not really even thinking about your needs. You're really focused on others' needs, and you realize as a person, as an adult who has experienced childhood trauma, that your needs are just not at the forefront. They're just not at the forefront in your mind, and so you're often having a lot of dissatisfactions in your relationships, and often leads to people-pleasing behavior, where you are just doing things that you know will keep people happy, that also unfortunately depletes you at times. And so that's also adds to the dissatisfaction in your relationships. That is how childhood trauma can definitely shape how you view people and shape your relationships, because again, you're viewing people as threats, and then at the same time it's normalizing a lot of, unfortunately, maladaptive mindsets and also beliefs that are not accurate. They're just not accurate, but there are things that you had to believe in order to survive the pain, and now you're at a space in adulthood where this is not working. Okay, and so finding ways to navigate healthy relationships is definitely possible, and working with of course, a licensed therapist is of course going to be my recommendation. Especially one that is knowledgeable in trauma and trauma informed and is trained in trauma. So that is kind of, in short, how trauma can affect your relationships. And again, there's, of course, I can keep going, but I don't want to make the video too long, because I know y'all won't watch it if it's too long. But I know we got, a lot to do, but this is just, in short, how it can. Now, if this video was triggering for you, if there's any information that I did disclose that was triggering for you, please today find some ways to ground yourself. And grounding yourself could be using sensory, soft, comforting things. Could be a stuffed animal. Using a stuffed animal. It could be a pleasant smell. Could be going for a walk, and if it's nice outside, catching the breeze and watching, grounding yourself back to reality to de-escalate any emotions that you might feel. No, this is not a substitute for therapy, but just psychoeducation. If you are feeling triggered by some of this information that we have been talking about in this series, I do beseech you to seek out some professional help if you have not, if you aren't already doing so. The fact that you're watching these videos means that you're curious, and I appreciate your curiosity and your self-energy, and continue to be curious about it enough to even start the search. I know it's a hard search, but start the search. I have another video about why it's so hard to find a therapist. In that video, in the descriptions, there's a lot of links to places to find a therapist. So hope this was helpful for you, and of course, like this video, share it with those who you feel could benefit from it, and of course, subscribe to my channel, as I got good stuff coming. I mean, I got the trauma series happening right now. You don't know what's coming, okay? I got good stuff coming. Thanks so much for watching. You have a wonderful day. Take care.